HOTTOGO. Yo, yo, yo. What up, guys? Peter here. Hopefully that caught you guys off guard because I know it's usually Andy doing the intro. But if you guys are like me, I've been jamming out to some Chaperone the other day. And so I know super off brand. Andy's over here cracking up. But if you guys haven't gotten into some Chaperone, get into it.
Oh man. All right, man. We just gotta move on from that. What was that, bro? Come on. No, I'm kidding. Are you on a trampoline right now? Are you jumping on a That's that jump.
Dude, good vibes only, man. Happy vibes only.
No, that's what's up. Awesome. Yo, I think we've been doing a lot of podcast episodes for people that are kind of starting up on their journey. So, we're gonna flip it because this is a question I've been getting asked a ton in regards to the space that we built last year. It's like, what should we do? Right? You're signing a lease, like what's the build? What's the equipment list? What are things that you like, regrets that you have, things that you can't live without? So let's just dive in. You've done this twice already. What's something where you're like, man, I am so glad I did this?
Yeah, 100%. So I would say it's got to be at least 2 or 3 private treatment rooms. So at the very beginning, in our very first space, we only had 1 private treatment room. And then we had 2 open concept treatment rooms or treatment tables. So I don't know, the open concept like treatment tables are good for follow-up visits, but like especially when you're selling high ticket, you want kind of that more intimate space to be able to have those like private treatment rooms. I know multiple people have been able to do it where they've got, just like maybe an open space with some corners and then they'll pull in some curtains. But I would definitely potentially recommend against that, especially, hey, if you want to go for that more bougie, like high end feel, like just spend the extra money and make sure you have these like, more private treatment rooms built out. For our current space, we've got 3 of these. But yeah, what about you guys? How many private treatment rooms do y'all have?
We got one, baby. And
Well, oh, man, shit, didn't mean to shit on you like that, but
no, I mean, you're good. When I first started practicing, it's like we didn't need like the space that I was at was just an open gym floor. Like no
yeah,
one needs a private treatment room. Like we're always kind of selling on a gym floor. We didn't even have like I would literally prop up a plyo box in a corner, and then I would roll over like an inclined bench, sit on it, and then that was how our session started. It would just be out on a gym floor. And it was funny because you mentioned like the high ticket sales. I
hmm
sold someone last week on working with us on a long term package, and I had to do the eval outside, and I had to close outside. I actually did 2 back to back like that,
yeah, that's fire.
and it was hilarious because I was just in my head because our other PT Ming was in this room, so I was just
Yeah.
like, man, we had a busier morning. And when you mentioned that, I was like, fuck, you're right. We need more than one treatment room.
Yeah, man, especially, yeah, like, you can definitely kind of make it work with kind of like staggering, but at some point, especially when you start to get busy, you're going to have multiple evals in there at once. And so you just want to make sure, hey, like they have like a good first impression and you have that kind of intimacy if they need. And then, yeah, for sure, for us, we have pelvic floor. So definitely need a little bit more of that like closed off privacy for those evals.
Yeah, and I think another benefit of that is just like, you can probably be like, yeah, if you have 3 PTs on a team, that's my room, that's your room, that's your room. So people have a way to like do notes, door close, and like, be a little bit more locked in, or like, hey, I'm gonna eat my lunch in there. That's another thing. Like, oh, someone's doing an eval, like we have conference rooms in our space that we can
Yeah.
rent on the floor above. But that's more so for like the work that you're doing. You can't take a patient there. You technically could, but the flow of things just wouldn't work out. But
Yeah. No, that's good, man. While we're on the topic of these like private rooms, one of the things that we've been doing in the last like 2 or 3 years that I think has been huge in terms of like increasing people's like confidence in us is literally we have 3 sides of the room, right? And then, one side is where the door opens. 2 of those 3 sides of the walls are literally covered in like Google review testimonials. And so it's not like in like cheesy way. We'll kind of like, frame them in like a nice picture frame and then we'll kind of like stagger them so it looks nice. But literally that's why like whenever an eval first walks in the room, aside from seeing, like their diplomas and stuff, is just social proof, social proof, social proof, social proof.
love it, love it. Yeah, that is my buddy owned a ice cream shop, and it's like when you walk in the door, like the first thing on the bottom there was like featured in like BuzzFeed, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, And then when you walk as you're ordering, it's like all these cool like newspapers that are hung up like magazines, and it's like showing all the different features and articles. So like people are like so excited to get this like ice cream donut sandwich. But I love that. Uh, Man, I would say the one thing that I was already thinking about, but I always feel like you need more of, is storage.
Hmm.
Storage is something that I think no one actually takes into consideration. So when you look at a space, it's like, all right, it's not the sexy thing, but once you're in a space, you're probably going to be thinking at some point, it's like, I'm running out of storage, right? Because you don't want to buy like two or three tissue boxes or like one paper towel at a time. You're going to Costco. So it's like when you're thinking about it, it's like, man, could I put like a bench here that could double as seating and like open it and then put some stuff underneath there? Can I hang some stuff? If I have high ceilings, can I like create some sort of cabinet structure that would look kind of sleek? But I think that is one thing where I'm like, man, you can never have too much storage. And I think it makes the space look so much nicer when everything is off the ground and it's neatly
Hmm.
compartmentalized. People think that those things don't matter, but like when someone steps in and it's super clean, pristine,
Yeah.
it's like those first impressions, you know? So imagine you go on a date, right? And then you're like, oh, you come back to my crib and you go to the bathroom, like, bro, this is disgusting. Like, you're already losing trust.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's so funny that you talk about storage, man. So we have a back room where, we kind of put our break room. We have a little table in there, but literally, we say it's a break room, but it's really like a storage room. Like there's a table for us for like one or two person to kind of sit at and eat their lunch, but it's literally surrounding them is just like boxes of like storage, just like piled up. So definitely need a lot more of that for sure. Just curious, man. Let's talk a little bit about like overall sizing of like clinics, because I'm sure, yeah, that kind of leads into it. So like, how large is your space?
So we're at 1900, and I feel
Okay.
like in New York, I'm so used to like being shoulder to shoulder with
Yeah.
people, like that's just how it is. I think with 1900, we're probably comfortable with three physical therapists working at a time. Anything more
Okay.
than that, I think, is not
Six
super.
total people out on the floor.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But when you staggered schedules, I think 1900, three therapists in the morning, three therapists at night, like you've got a pretty good
You
practice.
can make it work.
Yeah, that's already a beautiful thing. So I think that is solid for us. But how about you?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people when they transition into like a space, I think like that like 1600, 2000, maybe even 2200. So exactly where you're at is a really, really good sweet spot. So for me, when I first transitioned out of the CrossFit gym, my first standalone space was around 1400 square feet. So, we were definitely able to make it work. But once we got three therapists in there at once, it was like a pretty, pretty tight squeeze. So, yeah, I think like just a couple more, 400 square footage will allow you to have those like three therapists to be able to, feel like, hey, they're not moving completely on top of each other. People can still maybe do some skipping, some, more explosive plyometric stuff as well, too. Currently, our space, we're around like 2,900, almost 3,000 square foot. So yeah, we've got a really good bit size of a gym floor. We're able to run semi-private group classes in there at the same time with three therapists working at once. Yeah, so it's like we're able to fit a good bit of stuff in there, and then we have those like three private treatment rooms that people can do evals at the same time at. But if I had to maybe make a recommendation for people is I'm always very very risk adverse. At the very beginning, I was basically seeing, hey, like what I would be able to cover from a rent standpoint with my current monthly revenue versus choosing a space that I would be able to kind of like grow into. The thing is that whenever you jump into like a little bit of like a larger space, is that your revenue will 100% grow. And if it doesn't, like hopefully that gives you some motivation to, get out there, get some marketing and hustle to make sure like your revenue does grow, right? Like for me, I remember I think like when I was in a CrossFit gym, I was averaging around like 20, 25K a month. And then I think the average rule people recommend at the time is, hey, you don't really want rent to be more than 10% of whatever your overhead monthly revenue is. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm generating 20, 25K a month in a cross space. I shouldn't go more than like 20 or 2,000, more than 2,500 a month for a standalone lease. And so I basically kind of stuck to that rule versus like, hey, like, okay, I know I'm already here. What's my overall like ceiling potential? I should probably go for 10% of whatever my overhead ceiling potential is and be able to grow into that. But yeah, very luckily, we signed a 5-year lease. Our space that we ended up moving halfway into, we were able to, it's in the same building. So we were able to kind of just continue and extend our 5-year lease from the original 1,400 square feet. But yeah, for anybody kind of in a CrossFit space or sublease looking to transition to their own standalone spot, I would definitely recommend probably that like 2,000 square foot is something that you want to aim for.
Yeah, I think anything that would be less than that would be tough because you're probably signing a lease that's at least the minimum, most likely like 5 years.
Yeah.
So if you're like, hey, I plan on scaling beyond myself, to like multiple providers, you got to take that into account. Oh, similar to you, I don't really use the 10% rule. In my head, I'm just thinking, worst case scenario, would I be able to handle this space by myself?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I could, right? Like I'm risk averse as well. And I know what my work ethic is, right? Like when we were transitioning and making a jump to entrepreneurship, I just looked Christine and I was like, straight up, worst case scenario, I start Uber Eats. Like I can grind, like I'll be fine doing Uber Eats and then seeing sessions in between and figuring life out. So the 10% rule, I would almost, I think about that, right? It's like, how many plans of care do I need to sell?
Mm-hmm.
I need to sell 10 to cover this rent. I'm like, all right, like I better have a team and everything else built. But, in spaces where you're like, you only need to sell a couple and then you look at your previous months, what does that look like? And it's pretty consistent. It's like, all right, do you feel comfortable? Is this going to make you lose sleep? Because I've had clients that owned Orange Theories and other boutique fitness concepts. And I always ask them, like, what is your biggest regret? And some of them were like starting off way too big and, losing sleep for like the first year and a half. And I think that's too much.
Yeah. I think this is kind of interesting because this might vary location to location. So for you guys being up in New York, right, having that like store frontage is actually probably something that's like pretty important. Would you say so?
Yeah, I think we have like the window. So like we don't have the first floor, we're on a second floor, but like
Yeah.
our ceiling is huge and the window is like almost floor to ceiling windows. And I have like there's been people that pass by that are just friends, right? Like, yo, I just saw I just looked up and it's like, wow, cool, we got a power rack. And I took a picture, then I realized it was your clinic. And then
Yeah.
now friends randomly messaged, I didn't know you're in the area. So I think in New York City it is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And,
Like,
we kind of had this conversation before. It's like if you know where your leads are coming from and you notice that like, hey, every month you have like 5 people that come in that they close on packages and they're like, hey, it's because I saw your window sign.
mm-hmm.
Well, how much is that space worth, right? If each plan of care is 3,000, it makes sense to pay 15K if you're in New York. It's like that just generates you 15K almost every single month.
For sure. Yeah, like down here in Jacksonville, Florida, we're pretty much what people refer to as like a destination. And so it's like, hey, like being in the middle of town center, where all the other like high end, Lululemon and all these like walk by storefronts where people are window shopping will walk into that. Like that's not us at all. Everybody that comes to our place has to go through some sort of filtering process, most likely through like a discovery call first before they even arrive here. So as nice as it sounds, like down here, like storefront just really doesn't matter that much, and then you can actually get like pretty good bang for buck, price per square footage when you don't opt in for those like high end storefront areas.
Yeah, there's certain areas like, if you're in like a fairly affluent area, like it might make sense because like some people will make buying decisions just based off of like how sexy
Yeah.
branding and stuff looks. And I think that's stuff that plays a role. With we kind of talked about like square footage and like where to start. Obviously the first thing we're thinking about is like, all right, we're gonna fill this thing up to the brim, like let's start buying some equipment. What's one thing that you bought and you're like, yo, could not live without this? I think everyone should invest in something like this.
Yeah, I'd probably say kettlebells, man. Kettlebells are probably something that's just like super, super, adjustable. You can use them for like multiple different variations, upper body, lower body conditioning. And it's like really, really, especially if you get an adjustable one, you can save out on a ton of space. But yeah, I would say for us, like kettlebells, there's also something we can go on the opposite end of the spectrum. What's something that I bought that I probably, looking back on, shouldn't have. It'd probably be like a big ass like Rogue GHD machine. Like, bro, like, it's granted, it's like it'll last us forever, but it just takes up such a large chunk in our gym space. I know there's like tons of like different GHD variations now that you can kind of fold up and like move against the wall. But that's definitely something that like, if looking back on, if I had to like redo I would probably pick equipment that I can condense down on to save space really. Yeah, but going back to your original question, kettlebells for sure.
That's hilarious because like, yo, that that GHD machine has probably seen more incline push-ups than actual GHD. Using it for more incline push-ups.
Facts.
No, for us, I would say it's our racks. Like I love the cable attachment to the rack because I think it saves space and it looks really, really good.
Yeah.
But we use a Rep Fitness PR 5000. It's got the same specs as like a Rogue Fitness rack, but it's got the cable columns attached to it. I was like, man, this cable column is not going to be smooth. It's fucking amazing. I'd say that it makes the space look super sleek, and it's nice to have like stations, right? Because like that's one thing I think about when
Yeah.
designing this space. It's like if I can create like kind of 3 stations where we can get a really good rehab plan going, and like people can train and move. Like when we look at our space, there's 3 stations, so I know confidently that like at the bare minimum, we can do 3 sessions without problem. We could
Mhm.
create a 4th one if needed to. When it comes to like stuff that I don't think we needed, I feel like I've talked to so many people and like I've looked at so many spaces. The only thing that's in our space right now that I say we don't use that much is the ski erg. Like we have a ski
Mm.
erg, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I use the salt bike a ton. The ski erg is like, it looks pretty. I just don't use it that much. Like,
Yeah. Hey,
right.
unless you got a guy, somebody training for high rocks, you know.
That's what I was gonna say. Like,
Yeah.
I just got reached out to by like a High Rocks champ that like wants to, rehab. I'm like, that's where we're gonna start ripping those things. But I've used it myself personally, and I think that's kind of the trap that some people can fall into. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, let's get a belt squat, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I would love a belt squat, but your patients are not gonna be able to belt squat, so they'll only be able to belt squat with you, which kind of makes it pointless if you're building out plans, ahead of time.
Yeah, 100%. Man, it's so funny that you mentioned the squat rack. So at the very beginning, we treated like a ton of crossroads powerlifters, but over the years, we've kind of shifted a little bit away from the demographic. So it's funny. I was like, man, honestly, I don't really remember the last couple of times that I've actually used a freaking squat rack with somebody, but yeah, I would say like we have 3 squat racks in our clinic, and yeah, it gets used primarily by our semi-private small group personal training classes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think open floor concept, like you kind of mentioned it. It's like being able to move stuff. It's like all of
Yeah.
our. The one thing I wouldn't cheap out on is a really nice bench. Like I think
Yep.
our benches are like 700 a pop,
The
but
adjustable ones. Get the adjustable ones for sure.
you can roll it up, move it to the corner. It'll stand by itself, and it's just nice to be able to like if we host seminars, like we can move everything off the gym floor, and I think it's like super adjustable. Like at some point, like we might move some stuff around, and it makes the place feel fresh again. But the bench, I think, is key. Like buying it. I've had nightmare stories of people messaging me like, "Yeah, I bought a bench from Titan Fitness and
Yeah.
it broke." Like it's disgusting after like a couple of months.
Yeah. We've got, I think, a mix of both rep and rogue benches. I think we have like the rogue flat ones and then the rep adjustable ones. Y'all don't sleep on rep, man. Like rep has got some really, really good stuff, honestly.
Yeah, I like Rogue. I like Rep because it's free shipping. Like
Yeah.
straight up, like
Oh, bro, the shipping on rogue will kill you every single time.
yeah, it's insane. But I would say Rep and Rogue is a majority of what we have. There's a couple of other good brands like Get RX, I think is a good one.
Okay.
I've seen that. But a majority of the stuff is that. What about flooring? What you do with flooring?
Yeah, sorry. So believe it or not, flooring was probably one of our largest expense. Yeah, like, all right. So for our very first build out, I like balled out, and looking back, that was probably one of the dumbest decisions I did. But we went through Play. So yeah, so if you guys are familiar with Play is kind of like the Rogue for flooring, and yeah, we probably dropped close to like 10K, 8, 10K just on rolled rubber flooring and turf, right? But there's a couple like really good like online websites now. I think one of them's like American like rubber flooring mat or something like that. But yeah, we basically have rolled rubber flooring. That shit's heavy as hell, by the way. So if you guys are doing installation yourself, like be prepared for a workout. Yeah, and I think it's maybe we went for like the other 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch thickness. So it's, thick enough where you don't feel anything underneath, but don't necessarily want to be like dropping too much weights. I know that was something that I originally thought that like, hey, we were going to have a ton of like, high end athletes in here. We're going to be dropping a ton of weights and stuff. So we got to get that type of flooring and then get horse stall mats on top. But yeah. So flooring wise, yeah, I would probably aim for, the cheapest thing. Definitely get some sort of like rolled rubber flooring though. So it kind of has that like nice, high end gym feel.
Yeah, we went with we have like this gray cork flooring. It's nice. Like we definitely went for like a very boutique, like high end look.
Yeah.
My
With the speckled
Yeah,
like
it's
flecks
like
in there, right?
yeah, it's got like speckled white and tan, but it looks like gray cork. I don't remember exactly where the gray cork flooring is, but I will say that it's like a cork rubber mix.
Mm-hmm.
Going with like that kind of look, I think it looks awesome. But what you're gonna start to realize is like when kettlebells hit it and it scrapes the gray, it starts to leave like black streaks,
Yeah.
and that becomes a little bit annoying over time. So it's like if we were to redo it, I probably wouldn't
Go
go
black.
flooring. I would probably go black,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because I'm like, everyone's doing black. Let's go different. We got our turf from Ecor, which I really like. I think Ecor the turf feels good. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like you got a little bit of pop, a little bit of bounce in it. But yeah, and then like for our flooring, we didn't go like real wood floors. It's like we just went with like vinyl laminate
Yep.
floors. And there's a couple of brands that like look super legit. So like our flooring looks awesome, and people will think that it's legitimate wood flooring, but no, it's like just laminate flooring and
Oh yeah.
cheaper and looks super high end.
Yeah, I think for us, like for our reception and then our private treatment rooms, yeah, same thing. We went with that LV, was it LVT, luxury flooring, vinyl flooring, LV, I don't know, whatever it is.
Flooring?
LVP, luxury vinyl planks. I think that's what it is. Yeah. And then we, just literally just went to Home Depot and then, got a bunch of those and then pay like a contractor off Thumbtack to install it. So, yeah. And, one of the things looking back now, like, so I like went through the installation like myself for both of these build outs. And man, thinking, of course, I'm always trying to save an extra buck or two, but like looking back, I definitely would have like outsourced it and then like used my time for like higher leverage activities. But man, like just I remember like putting down like gluing for all this stuff. I was just like there at like 11 o'clock at night, just like pissed at myself. Like, why the hell am I laying down this flooring? It's middle of Jacksonville summer, it's 90 degrees outside. So yeah.
There's a after you kind of have like your signature like pieces, like for us, we're thinking about like what are some like wow pieces, right? So it's like we have like a custom made stainless steel and then like oak wood like panels, and like it's a dumbbell rack. It houses like 5 to 100 pounds, and it's got 8 kilo to 48 kilo kettlebells like all in one place. I think some of those like storage things, they get a little expensive, but it's nice to have like everything like against the wall and complete. Like I think Rogue's got a couple of those things. There's something about like cheap storage that you can buy like on Amazon that isn't quite as nice as like, a Rogue or like a Rep. Like having that more robust material, it just looks way better. What did you guys
No,
do with stuff like that?
yeah, dude, I 100% agree, man. I look at your like storage and I was like, man, that looks sick. Because especially for you guys have that like little like underlight that kind of shines out underneath, so it just gives it that very like kind of high end feel. For us, yeah, we honestly, I don't think like we have like a key piece that stands out like that, man. Yeah, a lot of our storage for weights is really just kind of comes from rep and stuff. But yeah, I might have to steal that bit from you and kind of get some sort of like underneath light tone that kind of just shines through and kind of gives it a like nice illuminated feel. It gives it like a very nice like warm like welcoming tone as well too.
Yeah, I think the Rep and Rogue, they actually do it so well. Like, there are certain like kettlebell racks where it's like it's 1,000 bucks, right? But it looks so much nicer than like a rack that you might buy elsewhere.
Yeah,
Like, it's almost worth it to go like Rogue and Rep for the rack because the construction is way better than what you might get
yeah,
from like a
and
cheap.
it'll last you forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm thinking equipment wise, man, like aside from, squat racks, dumbbells, kettlebells, some cable columns, cardio conditioning machines, like anything else that you guys have that are like, kind of fun that you recommend people have. Um, I know for us, we got like some force plates that we got maybe in the last like year or two. Yeah. What about y'all? Anything
Nothing
comes to mind?
else. Like, I mean, I'm looking at like outside in the gym space. Like we have a sled. That's just something that like people like to use, and we have squat wedges and ramps.
Okay.
I got the ones from Prime Fitness. I really like those. I think they're really great construction. And then some plyo boxes.
Yep.
That's pretty much it. And then all the random barbell kind of things that I think you would need.
Yeah.
You know,
I would say like, you know, it's I know I kind of fell into this like trap, but like when you have like an empty space, you just want to fill it to the brim with like all the fun toys, you know. But yeah, especially if you guys are kind of just starting out, like don't worry about like getting everything all at once, you know. Just go with kind of like the bare minimum of like whatever you are already currently using to treat your own demographic, that you know you're already getting really great outcomes with, and then as you kind of continue to build up a little more, then slowly add on like another additional piece. But yeah, you definitely don't need everything all at once, as even though as nice as it will look.
the one thing I would say that I really like is we have really tall mirrors. Like I wouldn't cheap out on mirrors. I think like if you buy like mirrors off Amazon and you try to hang it by yourself with like these plastic studs and like we got it's like a nickel brush mirror and you know I think having like a really big mirror allows someone to kind of be in front of it. People like it. It makes the space feel a little bit bigger. That's something that I feel like was a valuable ad that we spend money on. I'm like, man, is it worth it to spend like 2,000 on like three massive mirrors and like the installation of it? But we, you know, it's awesome to have.
I love that, man. How tall are y'all's ceilings?
I got to see what a traditional ceiling height is.
So that's probably something that I would like definitely take into consideration. Like for us, our ceilings are very average standard office height, like maybe like 10, maybe 11 feet. But I think like whenever I walk into a space and they've just got like these like long, big, you know, high ceilings, like open concept, it just makes the space feel like so much larger, you know? So it's like you can be in like that, you know, 1500, maybe in, you know, 1700 square foot, but if you have like really tall ceiling, it just makes it like that much taller. You know, try and jump and see if
Yo,
you touch
it's got
it.
14 feet.
14 feet, dude. That's yeah, that's sick, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 14 feet. I'm 100% sure, like compared to like our 10 feet, just even though it's only a 4 feet difference, it just makes the space feel that much larger.
Yeah.
So if it's yeah, if that's an option that you guys are able to kind of adjust, especially as you guys are going through the build out or looking at spaces, is definitely yeah, take that into consideration is those taller ceiling heights.
One thing to always think about is like when people come in, it's like, yo, man, this chair is sick. Oh man, the waiting area, like that desk is dope. It's like Facebook Marketplace. Don't buy like super new furniture. And the other advice someone asked me recently was like anything that you would do, like give advice to someone like if your wife or your significant other absolutely tears up TJ Maxx and like Home Goods,
Hmm.
bro, chances are they're gonna design a place way better than you. You just gotta hand the keys over. Like you just gotta swallow pride and be like, hey, I need you to give me the accents. I need you to put, you know, some of these miscellaneous things into place because we have like really cool like suede chairs with like this kind of woodsy like back panel. All of our like side desk are like acrylic or like stainless steel rack stuff with like really cool coffee tables, and
Mm-hmm.
like this feels like homey, which I think it's cool. Like even in the background, like acrylic shelves hanging like our favorite physio books. These little accents make the gym feel more welcoming, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it goes a long way to have like some decent like waiting area. Granted, no one's gonna be waiting,
Yeah.
but it's almost one of the first impressions, right? You come in and it's like is this like two foldable chairs that you picked up at Walmart, or is it like you know like something that looks like you could you know chill out there, maybe take a phone call?
Yeah, for sure. For us, we actually have two big ass couches. And looking back on it, like that's probably something that I would advise against is having like kind of these like shared communal, and because when people are waiting, it's like, hey, they may not know the person that's also waiting as well too, you know. So yeah, there have been a couple times where you know we've got like 4 or 5 people, you know, waiting out there, whether it's for class or for kind of like new evals or whatever, and you know they're kind of sitting next to each other And I had a client mention that to me once as well too. It's like, hey, you ever thought about looking into kind of these like individual waiting chairs? I was like, you know what, that's actually a really good point. So we actually haven't switched that out yet, but that's something that we're probably looking to do moving forward. Yeah, it's kind of getting those like individual, kind of nice lounge chairs versus kind of these like big ass shared communal sofas. Yeah.
Um, Decoration wise, like I think one of the things that like man, if you go in and like your shit's like that the anatomy skeleton, like all the stuff that's in the
Okay.
doctor's room, like I think this is I feel like everything, especially when you're designing and creating, it's like an opportunity to really show your personality, right? Like, is there stuff
Mhm.
in your space where you're like, yeah, it's cool that people come in and they see this and they're like, they know this is like a different vibe?
Yeah. So I'm all about like social proof, right? And so for us in Jacksonville, like the fitness community is like to a certain extent, like, kind of small. Like everybody who does CrossFit, pretty much for the most part, like knows everybody in the CrossFit community. Same thing with like runners, right? Everyone knows like, hey, like who are all the like local, top five runners that always, finish the races and whatnot. So what we've done in our newer space is a lot of these like what I call kind of like local fitness ambassadors that we've worked with in the past will actually take their picture and just like a cool like sick photo of them like in their sport action shot. We'll kind of give it kind of a little bit of this like black and white color and then kind of frame it. And so we've got like a wall like when people come in and it's kind of just like these like local fitness influencers that we worked with and like gotten them really great results. And so whenever people like from the running community come in and they're like, oh shit, like I know Kelsey, like she's a local Olympic trials qualifier. Like you guys worked with her and helped her do X, Y, Z. And so it kind of gives it's a little bit of like a status play almost as well too, on top of that like social proof layering. But that's something that we've kind of leaned into, is kind of give it that like a little bit of like that black and white kind of influencer feel for these like local fitness athletes we worked with.
Oh man, I love that. The design aspect I think is so huge. I've told someone that recently. I'm like, hey, you work with a bunch of like really good youth athletes in the area. Like, you should take a picture of all the youth athletes you work with and like what's a motivational quote that they live by, and have a
Yeah.
whole wall of them going down. We have like vintage like Nike ads that I bought online. So one of them was like, the reward is the 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 reward is the run itself. So it's like it talks about how like the journey is just you being able to run and like being in that middle of it, not the finish line, but the actual run itself. We got one of like Michael Jordan, like who would I be if I wasn't an athlete, right? And it's like got the Jordan vintage Jordan shoes, and then we got Misty Copeland with like Christie's old ballet flats,
Mm.
and then we have miscellaneous stuff surrounding. It's like we got a Nipsey Hussle album hung up, Celine Dion, a 50 Cent album. So it's like people come in and say, whoa, I didn't expect this kind of like vibe. Even on like our bookshelf, it's like we have all of our traditional physical therapy books. It's like every single book that you can think about,
Yeah.
and like the
Is that
strength
a
thing.
is that a Dreamville shirt?
It's a Dreamville hoodie. Yeah. So
I love that, man. Yeah, like people who love J. Cole, they come in, they see that like the instant rapport build.
yeah, there's people that will come in. It's like, man, this is such a dope space. Like, one of the most fun things we have, it's like a Murakami waffle maker. It's like a Japanese artist. It's a
Mm.
waffle maker with a bunch of flowers on it. And then we have like the waffle racers coming out of it. And it's like sitting on top of a shoe dog book. So it talks about the story of like how the actual waffle makers are made. So it's like we're putting a lot of like these weird, like artsy stuff, nerdy physical therapy stuff, and kind of blending it with like stuff that's like uniquely ourselves. And I've had multiple people say like, I just like that this doesn't feel like a fit office. Like, it feels like different.
Yeah, 100%, right? Like nobody, for the most part, nobody likes that like starch, like white, like traditional medical sterile, healthcare feel. So it's like, yes, even though we are in the healthcare profession, how can we make it, like a place that we would want to go into, and feel like, hey, we want to hang out here. Yeah, like whenever I go places, whenever I'm traveling, I always kind of take like little mental snapshots of notes of like, hey, like, oh wow, like this waiting area is like super sick. Like I love these like little essential oils that they have, right? Or kind of, hey, like the lighting here is like really really cool. Yeah, we haven't really done much with like lighting in our place. It's really kind of just traditional medical office lighting. But I think for our next build, whenever that does occur, like the lighting is 100% something that I definitely want to kind of get into. It's like, hey, like how can you get someone to feel a certain way the moment they walk in, just based off of the environment that they're in, without even any kind of like interaction with any individual yet, and is purely just off of the visuals and the smells that they feel.
Love that. Love that. And like, whenever, if you want to know what service feels like go in, like, people need to treat themselves. Go to stay at a nice hotel and you'll
Yeah.
feel the difference, stepping into like a Four Seasons versus like a Hilton. It's like next level, like difference. Aside from that, I think there's like a bunch of like easy wins. Like one thing for us, it's like we've got like, instead of like just having the tissue box out with like, Target tissue box, right? Like just buying like a general like tissue box cover. We have like
Yeah.
leather. Again, it's fake leather, but it's like you put the cover over it and it looks a little bit more like unique. And I think there's a lot of like small wins where it's like, instead of hanging our bands on like these hooks, we bought like these walnut oak hooks that are just like jacket hooks, drilled it into the wall, and then our bands hang off of that. So it's like it kind of meshes with everything else. But doing your like watching some HGTV, doing some gym inspo, it's kind of like developing your own style, right? It's like for me this year, it's like I'm trying to get better at dressing myself up. So like I save like 3 outfits. Like, all right, cool, I like those outfits, I'm gonna recreate them, and then I start to understand the nuances of like putting some other stuff together. It's like you should literally take a gym that you like, start to copy it, and then like take 3 gyms.
Make it your own.
Yeah, make it your own.
Yeah. For us, we've got this like little snack bin that we just constantly have, like probably like 10 different snack variations in that patients just love, man. We've got like protein bars in there. My personal favorite are these like organic gummy bears. I crush those all the time. But yeah, it's just for me, I know like whenever I like going for a workout, I always like some sort of like snack either pre or post. And yeah, it's like it's so fun whenever clients are coming in. They're always like, if they're on like their monthly plan, they'll come in and like check out, all right, what new snacks we got this month. So I think that's always something like fun that they may not see at other places.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's a great idea. Anything else? I think like on my end, I feel like that's the big rocks. Anything else after that really comes to like more personal preference. But gym building.
Um, I would say, yeah, like the the reception area. Do I would probably spend a little more time into kind of like designing it to, yeah, make it feel super warm and welcoming. Like first impression is everything, Like I know for our current space, we didn't really think that. I didn't really go that much into the design of it. But looking back, it's definitely something that I probably would want to change a little bit more on, just to kind of give it a little bit more of that welcoming feel. Um, One other thing, yeah, I would say like one other thing from a social proof standpoint that we do that I think is huge is just like maybe like a testimonial flip book. That's like something that we have. I know other people have like just like a giant testimonial wall, but we just have like a little flip book of Google reviews or kind of those like whiteboard pictures that we take, and then we'll separate them by body part. And then strategically, what we'll do is like we'll have them sit there, even though they've already had their forms taken out, and then we'll have our like receptionist basically hand them our testimonial will be like, hey, like doc will be out shortly, but while you're waiting, check out these like other people with shoulder pain. And so they're there like flipping through all these like wins and stuff, even though they're only waiting for like a minute or two. But I think that's also something that I think can be beneficial for people if they don't like know you as well, and they you just kind of want to build up as much like trust as possible.
No, that's good. And I think leaning into some of the social proof, but doing it in a way that doesn't feel like inundated with advertisements is always going to be a huge win. But man, hopefully you guys got something, if you're like building out the space and thinking about considering some of these stuff, take it from us after going through it recently, Peter doing it twice. These are definitely some stuff that you should take into consideration. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. We're always here to help. But man, Peter, here we go. I think we're on like week 9 or 10 already.
Let's go. Let's keep the ball rolling, baby.
Awesome, guys. Appreciate you. And as always, keep getting after it.
Let's go.
Peace.